Something happened in the Persian Gulf overnight that no amount of silence walks back. A guided missile destroyer turned into the wind, opened its vertical launch cells and started firing. Not one Tomahawk, not a handful, 49 of them, one after another, arcing across the night sky toward radar sites, communication hubs, air defense batteries and command headquarters spread across the full length of Iran. Not just the coast, not the strait, deep into the interior. The entire map of Iranian military infrastructure lit up in a single night by weapons that do not miss. To understand what 49 cruise missiles in a single salvo actually means, you have to understand what a Tomahawk is. It's not a bomb. It's a precision-guided, terrain-following weapon capable of navigating hundreds of miles at low altitude, updating itself via GPS in flight, and placing its warhead within meters of a specific coordinate. It can be reprogrammed mid-flight. It can navigate around obstacles. It can be aimed at a specific element of a complex structure, a communications antenna on a specific roof, a radar emitter at a specific installation, a fuel tank at a precise distance from a hospital, with the kind of accuracy that separates modern precision warfare from the blunt force destruction of previous eras. 49 of those, in one night. Aimed at specific nodes of Iranian military infrastructure distributed across the full geographic depth of the country. And they didn't go in alone. The F-16 CJ Wild Weasel was airborne. That platform has one purpose: hunting radar emitters. It carries a GM-88 HARM missiles that home on the electromagnetic emissions of active radar systems. The moment an Iranian radar operator switches his system on to search for incoming threats, he puts a targeting solution on his own location. The HARM follows the signal home. The suppression layer runs simultaneously with the Tomahawk salvos, meaning any Iranian air defense asset that tried to engage the incoming cruise missiles was itself being engaged the moment it activated. Behind the Wild Weasels came the F-15E Strike Eagles, the heavy door kickers. These carry the largest precision munitions in the American tactical aviation inventory. GBU-54 Joint Direct Attack Munitions, bunker-busting variants, 2,000-pound weapons specifically designed to reach targets that have been buried underground. The F-15E arrives after the suppression layer has cleared the environment and goes to work on the hardened targets the opening sequence left standing. Above all of it, F-35s were tracking Iranian reactions in real time, feeding targeting intelligence into the next strike sequence. F-18 Super Hornets were launching off carrier decks in the Arabian Sea. The full multi-platform, multi-domain, layered strike architecture of the United States military, executing simultaneously across hundreds of miles of operational airspace. Every platform doing its specific job in its specific sequence, coordinated from an E-3B sentry overhead, sending the signals that kept everything synchronized. That was Night 3, the largest package yet. To understand how you get to Night 3, you have to trace the sequence from the start. The trigger was an Iranian Shahed drone striking a US Army AH-64 Apache helicopter over the Strait of Hormuz. The Apache went down. Both crew members were pulled from the water, not by a conventional vessel, but by an autonomous sea drone developed by an Austin-based company, which deployed to the crash site and extracted the aviators while they floated in the Gulf. Both survived. The Shahed apparently didn't detonate on impact. One failed Iranian explosive mechanism is the difference between a dramatic incident and the deaths of 2 American aviators. One detonation failure. Washington called it what it was. Tehran called it a false pretext. But the clock started regardless of what Tehran called it. Night 1 was the opening statement. Air Force and Navy fighters delivered precision munitions into Iranian air defense batteries, ground control stations, and surveillance radar sites ringing the strait and extending across the country. CENTCOM described it as a proportional response to recent attacks on US forces and commercial ships transiting regional waters. Proportional, targeted, methodical. It was the calibrated opening of a campaign designed from the beginning to escalate. The Iranian response to Night 1 followed the institutional script the IRGC has been running without variation throughout this conflict. Claims of strikes against American targets across multiple regional bases. Drones sent into the 5th Fleet's anchorage in Bahrain. A long-range missile fired at a base in Jordan housing F-35s. The IRGC claimed it struck an F-35 or its hangar, though those claims emerged from an institution whose operational incentive is to announce success, regardless of what actually happened on the ground. But here is the data point that tells you more about where this conflict is headed than any individual claim or any individual strike. The IRGC's ballistic missile stockpiles are down approximately 90% from pre-conflict levels. 90%. The institution that built its entire deterrent posture around the possession of thousands of ballistic missiles capable of reaching targets across the Middle East, the institution that once launched hundreds of missiles in a single coordinated salvo of the kind that saturates even sophisticated air defense networks, is now launching salvos of 10 or so at a time, waiting multiple days between launches, rationing the last remnants of a strategic weapons program that the American campaign has been systematically eliminating across every phase of this conflict. What you are watching when you see the IRGC launch 10 missiles at Bahrain and then wait 3 days before launching again is not tactical patience. It is inventory management at the edge of depletion. That is not the behavior of a military force executing a confident strategic campaign. That is the behavior of a military force that knows its most consequential weapons are nearly gone and cannot be replaced. Because the production infrastructure, the resupply corridors, and the aerial import pathways are all being closed simultaneously. Night 2 intensified, more strike packages. More Iranian air defense architecture being dismantled. More IRGC command and control going dark. Then the Secretary of Defense issued a statement that functioned as a preview of what was coming. We will be busy tonight. 3 words. That was all anyone who understood the operational context needed to hear. Night 3 was what those 3 words meant. The tactical problem the American military has been solving across these consecutive nights is more complex than the headline numbers convey. Iran's reconstitution strategy during the ceasefire was systematic. The IRGC knew from the first phase of American strikes which categories of asset were most vulnerable to aerial attack. Fixed installations, surface-deployed radar systems, coastal naval facilities, above-ground missile storage. It spent the ceasefire moving everything it could underground, burying stockpiles in hardened underground storage facilities, repositioning mobile launchers to underground shelters in the eastern mountain regions where the coastal-focused first phase hadn't reached, hardening communications infrastructure, building new sites. 2 of those new sites were found and struck before their concrete had fully cured. That is the intelligence picture operating in this conflict. Not surveillance in the conventional sense, a persistent, comprehensive, real-time collection capability that sees Iranian military infrastructure being constructed at the moment of its construction and adds it to the targeting list before it becomes operationally functional. Seismic monitoring, thermal signature analysis, electromagnetic emissions tracking, ground-based human intelligence operations running throughout the conflict. The IRGC cannot build anything that doesn't get found. It cannot hide things by burying them when the sensors tracking it can see through the ground. Striking a surface-deployed radar site requires 1 precision munition with the right guidance package. Striking an underground hardened facility requires bunker-busting weapons, GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators for the deepest targets, the bunker-busting family carried by Strike Eagles for more moderate hardening. The suppression layer still goes first, but the follow-on strike packages are configured for underground geometry, carrying heavier ordnance, sequenced specifically to reach what the IRGC believed it had protected by putting it in the ground. The American military spent the ceasefire building the intelligence picture of where everything had moved, so that when the campaign resumed, the targeting packages aimed at the new positions rather than the old ones. The IRGC's air defense network has been stripped to irrelevance for manned aircraft, its coastal military infrastructure has been systematically reduced across months of operations, its ballistic missile inventory is at roughly 10% of what it started with, its underground reconstituted assets are being found faster than they can be completed, its aerial resupply pathways are being closed, its ports are blockaded, its power infrastructure is being struck, and then the announcement came about Kharg Island. 49 Tomahawks in the night, 49 specific coordinates. 49 elements of an IRGC military architecture that is not being degraded anymore so much as being dismantled, piece by piece, until what remains is insufficient to sustain the institutional position the IRGC has been fighting to protect. The Marines on the USS Tripoli are not watching this from a distance.